Hello there, and welcome to this course. Well, in this particular course, I'm going to take you guys through an entire Crud system using Python with Django framework. And the flow of the system is going to be, we're going to design a system where someone can be able to register. After registration, you could be able to log in and access some sort of a page that can only be accessed through can only be accessed after a registration process and login verification, after which we are going to store create some sort of a table that is going to store some data for us. We are going to proceed to display that data. We can delete any of those records if we wanted to, and we can edit or update any of those data if we wanted to. Yeah, so that is going to be basically a CRUD system, or CRUD. Yeah, and so quickly, we can just go ahead. I'm using PyCharm as the software of development. Feel free to use any software that you could be comfortable with. But I love PyCharm because this is what professional developers and engineers use as well. And the cool thing about PyCharm is it has really cool engineering or software development features, auto completions, auto suggestions, and a live server as well. So quickly, let's just click on new project right here. But of course, on PyCharm, look at this. It only requires you to select the project that you want to work with. But of course, yeah, just select Django. I can edit the name of this Django. I can say complete Django project, something like that. Yeah, just hit on create, give it a couple of seconds or minutes rather, let it set up the project, and let's continue. Yeah, as you can see, it's installing our Django and everything looks good. And so a couple more seconds. Once it's done, we continue. Yeah, this has installed Django successfully. It's trying to index my Python down here. Some pop-up was here. You could ignore that. And yeah, 3, 2, 1. Looks like we're in business here. Okay, cool. So now, right now, our project has been created, and as you can see, it has, yeah, as you can see, it has the templates folder that we need to use, and it has the project itself right here. So there are a few things that we're going to talk about here. So there's this URL file. We are going to set up our URLs right here, and or our endpoints right here. But of course, we are also going to have a views.py file that is going to that we are going to use to write some logics. Yeah, so we can just call these as views. Of course, we are going to use that along the way. We are going to come back to this in a couple of seconds. Yeah, and once we've done that, this project should be up and running right now. And so for us to run this on the terminal down here, I can just run Python. Sorry for these guys. So Python manage.py, then we can simply say run server, hit enter, and give it a couple of seconds. And as you can see, Django, I'm running Django version 4.7. By the time you're watching this, it could be a much later version, that's fine. But as you can see, it has started a development server and on this URL right here. So I could just click on this URL to launch it in browser, but I can also just launch my browser independently and right there 127.0.08000, and boom, here is our basic Django application. Yeah, this is our basic Django application, and everything looks like it's working fine. Okay, let's switch back to our editor and let's continue. So because we are going to start by making sure that immediately someone launches their application, this page here is going to be a registration page. I just want us to quickly make it as simple as that. And so that means we first of all need to have a register.html file, and that I'm just going to put it inside the templates. Let me quickly right click and say new HTML file. I can just call this as register. Register .html. But of course, there are a few things that I'm going to configure here. But in the meantime, let me just call it as register. Yeah. Then, but of course, I'm also going to have a login page. Let me quickly just create the login page as well. Login like that. And so I can just give it a title, login. I'm going to refactor most of these things. But in the meantime, let's keep it as is. And I mean, reason as to why I'm saying we're going to configure these things is because right now, the most professional way of how to do things here is we are going to have a navigation bar, and that navigation bar is going to be, but of course, on each of these pages. And so I know at some point, if we are going to have a navigation bar along all these, we are going to have a base HTML file, but before then, let's just make sure that at least someone can be able to register, someone can be able to log in, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now, right now, because we are going to use Bootstrap in this project to write our CSSs, we can quickly just go and download Bootstrap and use it on this project. So to download Bootstrap, we can just quickly go to our browser. I mean, let me just quickly, no problem if something is happening here. Yeah, so just add a new tab here. Then we can simply just write up there, download Bootstrap, and I can just go to this URL for get Bootstrap. I mean, whichever, this one here, can just click on this first one that gets me to that website here. And I can see they're recommending this Bootstrap version 4 right now. So let me not change anything here. Just click on download. And I'm sure when you hit on download, you should see your Bootstrap is being downloaded. So if you're using a different browser, I mean, you will see where whatever your downloads get saved. I mean, after this download is done, it's just going to be saved on my computer so I can use it. Yeah, so as you can see, my download is already done. So let me quickly just hit on like right here to show in my Finder because I'm working on a MacBook. But again, for you guys, if you're using a different type of operating system, you know where to find your downloaded files. And so I can quickly just extract these, just right click on these and let me open with my archive utility. But in whichever operating system you're using, perhaps you know how you actually know how you unzip your files. And so quickly, let me just rename these to have a better name. And so let me rename this Bootstrap from Bootstrap 4.0.0. And so let me just leave it to be Bootstrap. So that inside here, if I just double clicked, you see it's got a few more files inside here that you can use, but most of which is we are just going to use the bootstrap.css. Yeah, bootstrap.css. Well, looking at what I just downloaded, guys, I think we may have downloaded not an actual file that we may need. And so quickly, let me just go back here. I may not want these. Let me just select these two and right click and just delete them. I'm deleting those. Go back to the website. And here, so instead of just clicking to download from here, let me just scroll down a little bit and yeah, this is it. Compile CSS and JS. So let me just download this once again. I'm sorry for that, guys. Just hit on download and this should be able to give you a downloaded version here. So let me hit on Finder. And here is the Bootstrap once again that we can be able to download. So let me extract these, open with archives. Yeah, so now, yeah, right now I have my Bootstrap 4 right here, distribution. So let me just quickly rename these to become Bootstrap, have a better name. And cool. And so right now, if I just double click here, look at that. Yes, I have the CSS and JS, so that inside the CSS, we have everything that we need. But most importantly, we need to have this bootstrap.css. That's what we're gonna use in this class, okay, on this course. Now, quickly, once we have those, so we are just going to make sure that we copy this bootstrap and take it to our project. But even just before we do that, whenever you're working with Bootstrap, now the templates folder holds all the HTML files. But if we want to have CSS and so on and so forth, JavaScripts and images and all, we need to have a static folder. And that we are just going to create it on our main project up here. Let me just collapse these, collapse those. And don't make a mistake of right-clicking here, guys. It is up here. So I'm just right-clicking here, saying new directory. And so I can just call this a static, okay? So that now inside the static folder is when I'm going to like paste my bootstrap. So quickly, let me just go to my downloads, right-click and copy these. And so quickly, right here on static, I can just right-click and paste my bootstrap right there. Click on an OK. Okay. Then give it a couple of seconds and this should be done. Should be done in a few. Yeah, it is done. So when I get inside my static, look at that. I have my bootstrap right there and everything is working super cool. Super cool. So just as a way of preparing me to use these external CSS files in Bootstrap, we are required to go inside our project and activate those, simply because, let me just quickly try to connect to a register page. I mean, this register page, because that's what I want to have as my launching file. So I would like us to sort of launch this file. Definitely, let's just put some H1 there, saying maybe welcome or register here. But of course, I'm going to make this a little bit much better. But I just want us to see something quickly here. So now, for us to see this working, first of all, we need to have a way of launching this HTML file to the view. Because right now, what we have is, I mean, this default app right here, and that is not going to show us the register page. And so for us to launch the register page, we are just going to go inside our project and inside our views right here. And so we are going to create here a function that is going to do those, but we can simply say, we can just import a render function for us. So from Django dot shortcuts, import render. Okay, so that now quickly down here, we can just define a function. So we can have define maybe register function. And this function needs to accept a request. But of course, inside this, sorry, not like that, sorry, it's a full column. So inside here, we can just return a render function. And this render function requires to have a request. Then after that, we need to specify which page we want to launch. So in this case, it's this register.html. We can just simply say, in quotation marks, either double or single, doesn't matter. So we can have our register.html, just like that, register.html. So if I just come to my browser right now, try to refresh once again, and I mean, let me just run this project once again. Come here, stop the server, then run this again, 8,000, and quickly, let me just refresh these. Why it's not working, not sure, let me quickly figure out. Okay, so now quickly, I think you guys are not reminding me, sorry for that. I mean, we need to have a URL that needs to hit on this register file. So inside the URLs, we need to simply come down here and set up a URL endpoint that is going to hit on our register function. So quickly, right here, I can just simply say from dot import views. We need these views.py file so we can be able to access the register function that is on the views here, this register function. we need it as well. So now quickly down here, so I can have a path. And this path is when someone has not clicked on anything. I mean, I just want you to access the views dot register function. Yeah, views dot register function, and we can just give the name of these function to be maybe register. Yeah, register. Okay, register as well. Yeah. So now quickly, right now, if I just go to my browser quickly now to just refresh this, and this needs to work very fine. It needs to work very fine. Is our server running? Did I stop it and run again? Let me just stop this and run it again. And boom, it's running. So when I come up here, oh, I'm running it on a different port. So it should be 8,000. And yeah, register here. It's working very well. It's working very well. So now the essence of us coming right here is to demonstrate that if we are on our register.html page, this one here, and we are trying to use a bootstrap class, assuming I have assuming I want to make these h1 with a class, maybe text info. Text info should be able to change these color to some bluish color, but remember we need to connect to our external CSS. So we just simply need to say link, but of course we need to link to our bootstrap.css. Yeah, bootstrap.css. Rather, yeah, just make sure that you can be able to connect to your bootstrap.css. And some of you guys may be wondering what I just did. So when I'm using PyCharm, yeah, when my cursor is quite blinking just right there, and I hold down my control key and double space bar, it can give me these options. Yeah, control double space bar, it should give you those. So from these options, I can look for bootstrap.css, and it should autocomplete the route. I mean, this linking right here. But if you can't be able to get those, you may have to type these manually. You may have to type those manually. But when I come here and refresh, look at that. When I come here and refresh, nothing changed. Why? It's because in Django, when you want to use an external CSS like what we are doing right now, is you must go to settings, and just I can put it in. I can put a property down here just right after setting my static folder here. So I can also set my static files dirs, yeah, which is a list. And down here, I can just, yeah, it is a list like that. Enter. So I can say maybe base dir slash, then I can just say, or in single quotation marks, you can just say static like that. So static files dirs like that, and everything works like that. So base dir, and I should say my base directory is gonna be static. Static is the directory that has got all my CSS images and all. And so quickly now, when I go to my register.html, right here. So up here, the first thing that I need to do is I must use the Ginger templating technique to load my static sort of dynamic name. So I can simply say load static, just like that. I mean, that's enough. And this is a way of writing some Python code inside HTML. This is how you do it. Yeah. So the Ginger codes are allowing us to write some CSS, some Python inside of HTML. And so now here, instead of having this entire URL right here, so let me just right click and cut that selected area. Then I can just use Ginger templating here again, so that I can say now static space, and in single quotation marks, I can just paste that entire linking there, and I can remove this static part right here. And that should be it. So that now, right now, if I just come back to my browser and try to refresh, and boom, my Bootstrap is working fine. My Bootstrap is working super or extremely fine. So now, right now, we've managed to connect to we've managed to connect to bootstrap.css, but I mean, that was just to show you how to link to an external CSS. But later on, we are going to, at some point, tweak these a little bit so we can conform to international professional coding standards in Django. So right now, this register page, we want to have some kind of a form on it. And yeah, quickly, we are going to have a form, but that form is going to be auto-generated by Django. It's not like we're going to design it for some reason, but at least in the meantime, we can quickly design this form. But right now, I want us to conform or configure this code to look a little bit more professional, such that if we are going to implement like a navigation bar for some reason, like right now, if we designed a navigation bar on this register page, trust me, we are going to copy paste that navigation bar to log in. If we had another page, we are going to do that as well, which is super unprofessional. And so in this case, we are just going to have one main file to be holding those repetitive blocks of code, so that now these other pages can just plug into them and sort of consume those repetitive codes. Then these other pages can just have their own unique kind of codes. So quickly on the templates, let's right click and create another HTML file. And this one we can just call it as base. So the base.html file is the one that is going to hold every code that we may want to have. Yeah. So but of course we can just call this as maybe Django. The title is Django complete project, something like that. And but of course, whatever is on the register up here, these two, I mean, these load static and the connection to Bootstrap. I mean, let me just cut these and let me take it to base.html. Yeah, just right under there. Let me paste that code. Okay. And so right inside here, I can quickly just design a simple, I can have a simple block. So quickly, I can just, I can just have a block. I can just use the Ginger templating, call this as block, and I can select the second version. So this block, I can call it content, so that now inside the block content is where I'm going to be having every other unique codes. Otherwise, outside here, we can have our own, on the base.html, we can have the repetitive codes outside here. This block content is the one that is going to hold the unique kind of codes. So outside here, we can simply have, like, say, maybe a section that is going to have maybe the navigation bar. So up here, I can just call it maybe class, maybe navigation section. I mean, we will write the CSS for these if time allows. Then we can have another div inside here, and we can give it a class navigation section container, something like that. Okay. And so inside here, we can have, we can just have a navigation. And so in this class, or in this course, I wouldn't want us to design a navigation page. Let's just go on W3 Schools and copy a navigation bar and paste it right here. And so quickly, we can just go to our browser, I mean, new tab here, and we can just look for W3 Schools. Here it is, w3schools.com. And on W3 Schools, I can quickly hit on tutorials up here, and I can say learn Bootstrap. And remember, we are using Bootstrap version 4. Let me just click on Bootstrap version 4 right here. But of course, you can use version 5 as well. And I can just close this rim down here. So let me scroll down and look for BS4 navbar. Here is BS4 navbar. Yeah, down here. So that now on the BS4 navbar, the thing that we're going to do is, let me scroll down to find a collapsible kind of navbar. Where is it? Scroll down. And yeah, collapsing navbar. So here is the entire nav. So just select this entire code, this nav, copy that and quickly inside here, inside the navigation div, let me right click and paste. So I've pasted that code inside here, starting up here, but things aren't looking really good. So let me just hit on Control A. Yeah, Control A is to select everything. Then I can do in my editor, I can do Control Alt and I. Control Alt I is like I'm re-indenting my code so that it looks nice. So that now quickly right here, where there is nav, I can just say I can say complete. I can call it complete Django project maybe. But you can give these your own website's title, and these links, these can be maybe home, maybe about, maybe gallery, maybe let me duplicate these ones here. Let me copy these to just duplicate it down there. Paste here. So these can be maybe register. Then down here, let me add maybe another one for login. But of course, at some point, we are going to have a logout as well. And we can have this one as well, logout. Yeah, so we have some kind of a navigation bar up there. And after the navigation bar, you see after the section is when we have this block content that is going to be holding every other data. So I know if you have a footer down here, you can have another section for the footer section, and I can just give it a class, maybe footer section. Yeah, inside here, we can have a div, maybe footer section. Okay, maybe footer container. And so inside here, you can have your footer. Inside there, you can have your footer. Yeah, otherwise, we just have, this is our block, our content block. And this is what we are going to be consuming in those other pages. Otherwise, the navigation bar, I can even just comment and say start of navigation bar, control / or just rather to comment it out like that. Yeah. And or I can just say control / to comment it out nicely. And down here, I can just say end of footer section, just for you to know. Yeah, that these are comments, and comments are not meant to be, not meant to appear in your proper code. So, and here I can also comment and say start of content block. I mean, this is a good way of coding, just having comments. Then this one, end of block. End of content block. If you can't autocomplete these things, by the way, you can manually just type them. And what else? Here I can say start of footer section, control / then down here you can have end of footer section, control / like that. Okay, so now this is our base.html file. It has a navigation bar, it has got a footer, and it has a footer. The footer doesn't have any code right now, but at least we have a content block, and this content block is the one that we are going to be using in those other pages. So that is so to say now on register.html. On register.html, instead of having this register here, the H1 just right here, I can start by just removing everything here on this page. Then I can start by writing some Ginger here, some Ginger code here, and say extends, then in single quotation marks, base.html. So once I do that, I can simply now say I can have another Ginger. I can say maybe at block called, at block called content. So inside here is where I can have my H1 technically, but this H1, I can also make sure that I put it in some sort of a section. So section, and this section, I can even give, call it maybe my register section. And so here again, I can have a div class register section container. So this is the one that is going to contain the div and all, so that we can now have a H1, and the H1 can be register here. Register here. So that now quickly, right now, I can just give it a class text info as we had given it before. So that now if I just try to refresh, if I try to refresh these, if I just try to refresh these up here, look at that. I already have now this navigation bar up here, and I have a H1 right there saying register here, and everything looks good. Everything looks good. So that now this, I can also just say maybe text center. I can add another Bootstrap class called text center, so that if I refresh, look at that, register here comes to the center like that. And I can even add maybe some margin to the top here. I can just put a space and say margin top, just give it like say 2. 2 units right there. And I have added some little margin to the top, and everything looks good. So for some reason, I have the register page ready because now I need to start putting the registration form. I can even just, I'll comment here when I want to put the registration form here. But in the meantime, just before we put the registration form, we will need to prepare. We will need to prepare our form right here quickly. And so our form is going to be a very simple thing to do because it's purely HTML. So first and foremost, let's have a div with class row, div, and we can say class maybe row. So now this div, we can have 2 more divs with different column sizes. So we can say, 3 more divs. So I can simply say dot call dash, maybe say 3 times 3 to create 3 divs of the same size like this. So you see, I have inside the div row, I have these 3 divs. So I can just change this in between 1 to be 6. If you don't understand what I'm doing here, please revisit the Bootstrap course, because all these concepts have been covered in Bootstrap, and I'm using Bootstrap to style up our page. So now in between the div that has got a column 6, so here is where I can start now doing my form. And so I can just say form, and this form I can't even, it doesn't have an action in the meantime, but I can just put there a method post, and Django uses this method post to receive the data from the form. And so you can either use method post or get, but in the meantime, I'm actually using this method post. And I'm assuming for this course, you guys have understood, have done forms before, and that's why I'm just doing the complete project, okay? So now here inside our form, the very first thing that we need to do is to prevent from hackers SQL injection threats. So now we can just also have some Ginger code here and say CSRF token, so that now in here on our form, we are just going to have we are simply going to have our form generated from Django. So we may start doing input fields right here, input right there, but that is not what I want us to do, because Django has a capability of generating for us, forms, especially these user registration form, so that we can just display it right here. So now for us to generate that form, let's just create a new Python file here and let's call it forms, so that we can design our form quickly. new Python file. Let's call it as forms. Okay, so now on the forms, yeah, on the forms.py, we can just quickly start by writing there from Django, from Django.forms, import. I mean, we can just simply say from Django import forms. Yeah, from Django import forms. That's all. Okay. Then we also need to have the user model. So we can simply say from, because if we want to register the user, we need to also use the Django's user model. So we can say Django from Django.contrib.auth.models, import user with a capital U, like that. So we also have a user model right there. And yeah, so yeah, I think that should be just it. So that now lastly, we can also import the user creation form, because that's available in Django. So that's easy. We can simply say from Django.contrib, from Django.contrib.auth.forms, import user creation form. It is already available in Django. So that now, if we want to create a user registration form, we are going to create it as a class. So we'll just have class, let's say user registration form, user registration form. And this user registration form is inheriting from this user creation form, like that. Okay, so that now down here, we can now specify the input fields that we need to have. Yeah, so the username and the password, those input fields are already available on the user creation form. The only input field that we need to add is the email field. So email equals to, so we can simply say forms dot, you can say it is an email, email field. And don't forget that bracket right there, email field. So that now we can scope these input field together with the input fields that are in the user creation form. And this is how to do it. So to scope is like to make sure that this input field is also available inside the user creation form that is already available in Django. So we can simply use class meta, just like that. Then we can say our model is our user model. That's the model we are going to put these email as well. And so the fields, how they should even appear on the browser is a list of, so the first one is gonna be a username. Okay. The second one is gonna be an email, comma. Okay. The third one is gonna be password one. So password one is the normal password. And comma, so we should also have password two, and password two is the confirmed password, the so-called confirmed password that you guys know as confirmed password. That's how we do it. So we are going to have an input field for the username, for the email, for the password, and for the confirmed password on the form that is going to be generated, So having done those, so now it becomes easy. It becomes easy for us to quickly use those forms on, to sort of render those forms from the views right here. Yeah, it becomes now easy for us to do that. And let's do that very quickly, okay? Okay, so now quickly, because we want to use this form that we've just designed on the forms.py file, this user registration form, so we can just quickly on the views right here, try to import it. So we can say from .forms, import user registration form, just like that. So that now when we render our code on the other side, and when we render our code, our register HTML file, we need to render with that form, so that we can simply say form, our form equals to user registration form, just like that. And yeah, user registration form. And we can just quickly pass it to the other side by adding a comma here and having a dictionary having form as the keyword and the form as the value. Just like that, just like that. And so once you do this, you will have rendered this register.html file, and you will have passed the form to the other side. Yeah, you'll have passed this form through a keyword called form, so that now on the user registration page, on the user register.html file, we can quickly just display that form here, and it will come with all those, it is going to come with all those input fields. It's going to come with all those input fields that we have defined in the forms.py, these ones here, username, email, password 1, and confirm password. Yeah. So now here in the register.html, I would like us to use something called Crispy Forms. So Crispy Forms is a library that we can use to style up Django generated forms using Bootstrap. Yeah, so we are styling up the Django generated forms, but we are using Bootstrap. And so for us to use the Crispy Forms, we need to install that as an external package. So now quickly down here, I can just, can I add a terminal here? Or let me just stop this, but I'll run it again later on. So I can just simply say pip install Django underscore crispy underscore forms. Yeah, pip install Django crispy forms. Just hit enter, and that should start installing the crispy forms. Okay, cool. That is installed already. That is installed already. And the next thing that we need to do is to run pip install crispy underscore bootstrap underscore. Oh yeah, bootstrap 4, just like that. Pip install crispy bootstrap 4, hit enter like that, and that should be able to install. And that has installed as well. So once you've installed the Django crispy bootstrap, once you've installed the Django crispy forms, and you've also installed the crispy bootstrap 4, you are set to go. You're set to go. And so, but for us to use those, we must also go to the settings of our project and make sure that we can allow crispy forms to switch into action, just like the way we allowed the static folder. So inside the settings, inside the settings, here, just right after static, down here, we can also allow the crispy forms. So we can write and say, and you need to be careful because there is no auto suggestion here. So crispy underscore allowed underscore template packs, crispy allowed template packs. I can just simply say this is bootstrap 4 in small letters like that. And down here again, I can just simply say now crispy template pack is bootstrap 4. Crispy underscore template pack underscore pack is again bootstrap 4. Bootstrap 4. Yeah, bootstrap 4. And so once we've done that, because we have installed the bootstrap 4 Django crispy forms and bootstrap 4, we must also, even after we've edited these, we must also come up here on our settings and just right here on the installed apps. Where is it? Right up here on the installed apps. Here on the installed apps, we must also add those. So we can add Django crispy forms. Django crispy forms and crispy bootstrap 4. Not even Django crispy forms, it's just crispy forms up here. Sorry, it's just crispy forms. Yeah, crispy forms. Yeah, just that. Crispy forms. Yeah, sorry for the previous mistake. And this is crispy bootstrap 4. Crispy bootstrap 4, this one here. Cool. Yeah, if it is not auto-suggesting for you, please just type it manually. Crispy bootstrap 4, but always just make sure that it is installed successfully. And down here, you've written exactly what I have written here. Yeah, some people will make a mistake and add an S here, which is wrong, which is actually wrong. So once you have those, looks like everything is working fine. So here on the installed apps, we have Crispy Forms and Crispy Bootstrap 4. So now we can just quickly go on our register.html and implement that quickly, yeah? Because now everything is set up. It's just a matter of now finishing up all these stuffs right here. So quickly inside here, before we can just display our forms using Crispy Forms, we can have a tag called a field set for the title of the a field set for the, a field set for styling up nicely our form. And this field set, we can just, we can give it a class, and we can even call it as form group, okay? And this field set as well, we can just have a legend, and the legend tag, those of you who have done HTML, you know, this is the way to put a title on a form. So this legend, we can just maybe say join today or register today. Perhaps it's register today. Okay, join today is fine. Yeah, join today. That's super cool. And so we can also give this legend some class. And the class that we are giving it, let me squeeze that a little bit. So the class that we are giving this is, we can give it some border to the bottom, bottom, and just, border bottom. And we can just have a margin to the bottom with 4 units, just like that. And that's enough. That's enough. So that now quickly inside here, down here, we can now display our form. Remember this form that we just passed from this other side? Let me show you on the views. There's this form that we are passing, this one here. So as a matter of fact, this is what we are going to display on our register. And to display it, we can just use the Ginger template, and that's how to display something in Ginger. So we can just say we are displaying form, and we use a pipe. We are using Crispy. Yeah, we are using Crispy. We are using Crispy. We are using Crispy like that. Using Crispy. Now, I hope you guys noticed that our Crispy is giving us some challenge, and one of the challenge is unresolved filter called Crispy, and they're telling us we need to load the Crispy as well. And so for us to load the Crispy is quite easy, because up here, just after the extends base.html, we can just quickly load that. So we can simply say, load Crispy filters, this one here, and down here as well. What else we can load here? We can load static as well, and just say load static. And finally, what we can load is the Crispy form tags. So load Crispy form tags, and that's all. That's all. That's all. So once we have those and we have displayed this form down here, everything needs to be working very well. Everything needs to be working very well, except that we don't have a submit button on this form, by the way. So after the field set, that's easy. We can just have a submit button here. So we can have a div to hold that button. And this div, we can give it a class, and we can call it as form group. And inside this div, we can just have an input of type submit. And the value that is going to be on this is register. And we can just give it some nice bootstrap classes, like maybe btn info. And that should be it. Yeah, btn and btn info. So that right now, if I just try to run this code, Python manage run server. Okay, it's working fine. And if I just refresh, boom, look at that. We have a form. We have a form that has been auto-generated, and it is demanding for the username. It's demanding for the email, the password, and the password confirmation down there, so that someone can register. So up to that, we have just managed to design this form. And so let's proceed and look at how someone can enter this data and store it into the database. And but of course, also look at how we can view that data from the database. Okay, so now this code has already become lengthy enough. So let's let's continue on the next recording. Continue with the playlist and you should be able to find the next video. Bye-bye for now and see you in our next lecture. Bye-bye for now.